In the beginning of the story, it is told that a town named Chester's Mill was like any other town, but then some horrible and scary incidences started there, which made the entire town worse than hell. But let us know what dangerous incidences were happening there. The story begins with a boy named Barbie burying a dead body. Barbie didn't live there, and judging by the bruise on Barbie's forehead, it looked like she'd had quite a fight with the dead man. After burying the man, Barbie starts to drive out of town in her car, but then he is met by the car of a police officer named Sheriff. He gets a little scared seeing her, which distracts him from driving, but somehow he escapes from the police. But then, to save some cows standing in the middle of the road, Barbie swerves his car suddenly and ends up in a field. Goes. It hurt him a little. A few seconds later, the ground there starts shaking violently due to an earthquake. Then suddenly something from the sky comes down in front of the Barbie, and everyone calms down. Barbie sees that cow was cut into 2 pieces by this thing falling from the sky. He starts to touch the thing in fear. Then he realizes that it is an invisible wall which was so sharp that many houses were also split into 2 parts because of it. Then a boy named Joe comes and asks him, "Are you okay?" He is also shocked to see this invisible wall. Then Sheriff and Linda get the news that the power supply of the entire town has been cut. The phone lines are down, and the internet is not working. Even the satellite systems have stopped working. Then a plane flying over the city crashes into the invisible wall, seeing which people were even more scared, and it is confirmed that it is not just an invisible wall, but a round-shaped dome which has covered half of the city. On the other side, we see Phil and his assistant Dodie at a radio station who were trying to get a signal. They were both confused as to why the signal suddenly went away, but Phil thinks this is a good opportunity to boost his radio ratings. Therefore, they start to fix both signals. There, a fire truck was coming from the other side of the dome, which Barbie saves the truck from crashing by pointing to the invisible wall. Later, some policemen come there to investigate, but it was not enough for them to understand this invisible dome. At the same time, a city councilman named Big Jim comes, but he also doesn't understand anything about this dome. Here, the police get information that all the roads leading to this city have been closed because a lot of accidents are happening due to this dome. We then see a family of 3, including mother Carolyn, Alice, and their daughter Nori on their way to the same town, unaware that the dome has covered Adtown. On the other hand, we see an investigative reporter named Julia, who was very popular in Chester's Mill town. One day, a woman calls him to give her secret news. The woman tells him that she has seen 6 trucks full of propane going to Chester's Mill, and according to her calculations, such a large quantity of fuel like propane is going into the mill. Could be part of a dangerous plan. Julia promises to investigate this woman, and she is too busy with her work to pay attention. There, Big Jim goes to the radio station and makes an emergency announcement. Carolyn, who was coming to town with Alice and Nori, hears the announcement but thinks it's some kind of advertisement, so she ignores the announcement. And their car avoids hitting the dome because before that, a truck coming from the other side crashes into the dome. Seeing this, she immediately puts on the brakes of her car, but after seeing the incident, Nori starts having seizures, which makes unconscious. But before she gets unconscious, she tells about a pink star. Now Nori is rushed to the hospital, which was filled due to the incidents in the town. There, Julia and Barbie were bringing the injured people to the hospital. Julia's husband was also a doctor in the same hospital. She goes to see him, but at that time he was not in the hospital. At the hospital, Julia finds out that her husband never worked on Sundays and was always lying to Julia. Outside the hospital, we see Barbie and Angie meeting. Seeing both of them together creates a distinct tension in Junior. There is now a complete closure of the borders of the town. Many scientists and experts also do not know the real reason for this strange problem. But after a few hours, Big Jim meets the sheriff to talk about propane. He already knew a little about it, but he wasn't talking about it openly. There, Barbie had to stop for one night in this town, but she had no place to stay. For this, he decides to spend the night in his car. Just then, Junior comes to her and tells her to stay away from Angie, slowly turning into a threat. Barbie wonders what's wrong with her when Julia comes in and they stop fighting. After that, it is seen that some teenagers were having a party in one place, ignoring the town situation. They also had Joy. Joy starts talking to a boy about the situation there, but suddenly Joy has a seizure, and he starts talking about Pink Star like Nori said before. Joy's sister Angie is alone at home. Then suddenly Junior enters her house and kidnaps her and takes her to her father's broken shelter. There he tells him that I know about the dome that covers the city, and Angie also know from him that Big Jim is Junior's father. He also tells Angie that his father was always worried about his family's safety. so they built this shelter for the family. On the other side, Julia brings Barbie to stay at her house. Then Barbie looks at the photo of Julia's husband and realizes that it is the same man she killed that morning. On the other side, Linda and Sheriff were keeping an eye on all the vehicles so that no one accidentally hits the dome. Then suddenly Sheriff has a seizure and dies on the spot. Now from here we are shown the morning incident in flashback where Julia's husband, who was a doctor in the hospital, came to meet her in Barbietown. He talks to her about some payment, but the doctor refuses to give her the payment. They both get into an argument and accidentally Barbie shoots him. Barbie knew that even if he killed him by mistake, he would be punished for it. So she buried his body in the forest to escape. In the present, Barbie wakes up in the morning and finds that her necklace is missing, so he asks Julia about it. Julia tells him that she will find his chain and give it to him. Then Barbie remembers that chain fell in the cabin where she killed her husband. Meanwhile, Joy was with her friend Ben, who had helped her during her seizure last night. Ben asks Joy about what Pink Star said last night when he had a seizure, but Joy can't remember anything about it. There at the radio station, Dodie manages to contact people outside the dome with the help of a special device. She could hear the soldiers talking to each other, but she didn't say anything to them. The soldiers were also confused that what is this invisible wall? On the other hand, Big Jim is sitting in the restaurant having breakfast when Linda comes there and tells him the news of the sheriff's death, from which they immediately go to the burying dead bodies in the bunker named Lester. Meanwhile, Angie tries her best to call someone for help at the shelter, but she is unsuccessful. Then Joy comes there and ties her to the bed with a chain. There Big Jim brings Lester with him, who was a friend of the sheriff. The sheriff's death leaves him sad and upset. When Linda isn't around, he and Big Jim talk about the propane import last month that the three of them were involved in. He hid this from the townspeople. The sheriff's death confirmed that he would not be able to tell anyone about his involvement, which was also good news for them. Later that day, Linda comes to the police station and finds Big Jim looking for something in the sheriff's office. When Linda asks, he tells her that he is there looking for the sheriff's will papers. But he was actually there to find papers related to the importation of propane that could get him and Lester in trouble. He immediately comes out and tells Lester that he thinks the paper will be at the sheriff's house and sends Lester to his house to get it. Meanwhile, Julia rushes to Dodie at the radio station where she sees that they can listen to the soldiers outside the dome through the device. After listening to them, Julia realizes that they are trying to dig out the dome, but they are not able to succeed in this task. Julia then uses the radio to spread the news of the dome throughout the town, causing fear and panic among the people. There, Joy and Ben see the scientist doing his work by the border. Scientists see the effect of water on top of the dome, but they did not understand much, from which they do not come to any conclusion. Joy sees that the dome is like a sieve. He tells Ben that very little water can pass through this dome. On the other hand, Barbie goes to the doctor's cabin to find her chain. There he finds her chain, but then Junior comes there and sees it. Junior asks her, "Did you sleep with Angie here?" Barbie thinks he might have seen him looking for the chain, so he couldn't let Junior go like that, so he starts beating Junior very badly. There we see that Lester reaches Sheriff's house and starts looking for propane import papers. After some time, he finds those papers, then he burns them. The curtains of the house are caught, due to which the flames spread throughout the house and the whole house starts to burn. Seeing this, many people gathered and tried to put out the fire, but it was impossible to put out the fire without a fire truck. If those people had let the house burn, the temperature inside the dome would have increased so much that people's lives could have been lost, so everyone started putting out the fire together. Barbie leads people to put out fires. Then Linda hears Lester's screams from inside the house. She drags him out and sends him to the doctor for treatment. In the end, Jim comes with a loader and demolishes the house. Then the fire ends after going somewhere, after which all the tired people gather together. Among them, a policeman named Paul is frustrated. He says that all of us will never be able to get out of this dome because the dome is not allowing the smoke from the fire to escape. He says that we are all going to die inside this dome. Fires a shot in the air which hits the dome and hits another policeman, and he dies immediately while Paul is arrested. When it gets dark, Joy and her friends go skating when Nori comes up to Joy and tells her that she needs to charge her phone. Joy takes him to his house because his house had a generator, which was one of the few houses in this town. Meanwhile, Linda brings Paul to the jail where some people were protesting outside the police station. Actually, they were not happy with the crappy police system. Jim calms them all down by saying that they will all be helped if needed. After being locked in the lockup, Paul has a heart attack, which Linda rushes in to help him, only to find out that Paul was only faking the attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Paul pushes her into lockup and runs away. Meanwhile, in the bunker, Junior goes to Anji again. Anji realizes that if she wants to get out of here, she will have to trap Junior in a false trap, so she reminds him of her childhood memories when they both used to go in a closed tunnel and says that maybe that the dome has no effect on the tunnel, then they can go out here. Anji thinks that he is trapped in her trap, so maybe she should leave him, but nothing happens. Junior alone makes going through this tunnel plain. There, when Jim comes to the police station, he finds Linda locked in the lockup instead of Paul. He immediately takes her out of the lockup. They find out that Paul has taken some rifle and bullets with him. Linda immediately goes to the forest to look for him, because she knew that Paul often went to the forest to hunt. Meanwhile, sitting in the restaurant, Carolyn worries about Nori, because she stopped by Joy's house last night without telling her both mothers. Jim prepares a team to catch Paul. He also asks Barbie to accompany him because he proved to be a good leader in putting out the fire. After that, they start going to the forest. On the way, Barbie shows them his qualities and says that he has also been in the military. On the other side, Julia sees Junior going towards the tunnel. She stops him and asks where he is going after packing his bag, but Junior was in a hurry, and he was also nervous. He says, "I am just going to meet a friend nearby." Julia's suspicion grows on him and she follows him to the tunnel. Meanwhile, at Joy's house, Joy and Nori were having breakfast together. Joy had never been alone with a girl before, so he was feeling a little nervous, while Nori was confident and was also present in the conversation. Then Ben and two girls came to her house, who had to charge the phone. Ben had to use the generator to impress, which Joy allows Ben to do because the generator was a very useful thing in this town, and he didn't feel like misusing it like that. Meanwhile, in the forest, their search team finds Paul. But at the same time, Paul shoots a boy in the leg. Another boy stops to take care of him while Jim and Barbie run after Paul. On the other hand, Junior reaches the other side of the tunnel, where he finds out that the dome has covered the tunnel as well, because of which his torch starts burning. Then Julia comes there and warns him. Junior gets very angry seeing Julia because she was following him, so he starts punching the invisible wall like crazy, which Julia stops him. Then they both sit and talk. Julia tells him she says that due to a mistake she made in her past, she is stuck in this useless job of a journalist. On the other hand, Joy's house is filled with people who have come to use her generator for their own needs. A mischievous boy tries to extort money from people for using the generator, which is not his. But seeing that no one had the guts to speak up against her, Nori steps in to handle everything. But things get even hotter. But before anything goes wrong, the lights go out. Nori is very happy that Joy supports her in this discussion. In the forest, Barbie and Jim reach Paul, but Paul had taken out his rifle, with which he was about to kill Jim, when Linda came from behind and shoot him. On the other hand, Carolyn goes to Joy's house and meets her daughter Nori, and tells her that she should be a little more responsible. At the same time, both of them start having seizures. They were talking about a pink star together. Meanwhile, Junior goes to Anji in the shelter, but this time he has a first aid gift in his hand. Anji bandages his wounds and secretly keeps the scissors with him. There we see that Julia and Barbie return home after a tiring day, but Julia starts doubting Barbie after hearing Julia Jr.'s words, and when Barbie goes to bath, Julia starts checking her stuff. So friends, how did you like the story of this series so far? And if you want to watch this series in full, then do not forget to comment and subscribe to our channel to watch mysterious recaps.